Welcome to Victorian London. Close your eyes now and let yourself drift. Drift back through time, back through the centuries, back to a place that no longer exists, a place where the air itself could end your life, where every breath, every step, every moment carried with it the weight of survival. It is the year 1888, the heart of the Victorian era. Queen Victoria has sat upon the throne for over 50 years now, and London, this sprawling, endless city, has become the largest metropolis the world has ever known. Over 5 million souls, packed into streets that wind and twist, like the veins of some great, suffering beast. Imagine yourself there. Imagine yourself waking in this city of shadows and smoke. Imagine that you have been transported back to a time when survival was never certain, never guaranteed, when each day began with uncertainty and ended, if you were fortunate, with exhausted sleep. Let us walk together, slowly, so slowly, through a single day in Victorian London, and discover, quietly, gently, why you, a person of the modern world, would not survive, not even a single day, in this place, this time, this moment in history. Breathe deeply now, and let us begin. Morning, in the darkness, you wake, but it is not the way you wake now, not to an alarm, not to gentle sunlight streaming through clean windows. No, you wake in Victorian London, and the darkness is still thick around you, heavy, pressing down. The room, your room, if you can call it that, measures perhaps 8 feet by 10, perhaps smaller. You share this space, always, with others, perhaps your family, your wife, your children, all sleeping in the same room, the same bed even. Or perhaps, if you are alone, you share it with strangers, in a lodging house, where beds are rented, by the night, or even by the half-night. The air. Notice the air first. It is thick, so thick you can almost taste it. A mixture of coal smoke, human sweat, dampness that never dries. The smell of the chamber pot in the corner, which has not been emptied since yesterday, or perhaps the day before. There is no bathroom, no toilet as you know it. Just this pot, this vessel, shared by everyone in the room. You would not survive this air, not for long. Your modern lungs, accustomed to filtered air, to ventilation, to cleanliness, would rebel. Within hours, you would feel the tickle in your throat, the heaviness in your chest. This is just the beginning. Listen. Listen to the sounds of morning, even before dawn breaks. You can hear the city stirring, the cough of your neighbor through the thin wall. A wet, rattling cough that speaks of tuberculosis. Consumption, they call it here. 1 in 3 deaths in London comes from this disease, this slow, wasting illness. And it spreads through the air, through these cramped rooms, through shared spaces. Your neighbor coughs again, and you breathe the same air. The cold. Feel the cold now. It seeps up through the floorboards. There is no central heating, no thermostat to adjust, only a small fireplace, if you are fortunate. And coal costs money, precious money. So you burn as little as possible. You sleep in your clothes, all your clothes, layered, and still you shiver through the night. Outside your window, a window that may not close properly, that lets in the draft. The fog is rolling in, the famous London fog. But this is not romantic, not beautiful. This fog is yellow, brown, green sometimes. It is not fog at all, not really. It is smog, a mixture of coal smoke and natural fog, so thick that people get lost in streets they have walked 1,000 times, so thick that people fall into the Thames, not knowing they had reached the river. This fog, this killer fog, would choke you, a modern person, within hours. Your eyes would stream, your lungs would burn, you would cough, and there would be no relief. But you must rise, Bo, you must, because work waits. And if you do not work, you do not eat. It is that simple, that brutal. The morning routine, such as it is. You sit up slowly, in the darkness, and reach for what? There is no light switch, no lamp with a simple button. If you are lucky, very lucky. You have a candle, a stub of a candle, and matches. But matches are expensive, so you save them. You fumble in the dark instead, or wait for the first gray light of dawn. Water. You need water. For your face. For your hands. But where is the water? There is no tap. No faucet in your room. No bathroom down the hall. Instead, you have a basin, a chipped ceramic basin, filled with water from yesterday or the day before. Water that you carried, up 4 flights of stairs, from the courtyard pump below. Water that is shared by 200 families. Water that flows for only a few hours each day, if at all. You splash this water on your face, and it is cold. So cold it makes your teeth ache, and it is not quite clean. There are tiny particles floating in it, sediment, and sometimes a faint smell, a hint of sewage, because the water pipes and the sewage pipes run close together, so close, and they leak. They always leak. This water alone, this innocent-looking water, could kill you. Cholera, typhoid, dysentery, all carried in water. You would not know, not until hours later, when the cramps began, the fever, the uncontrollable evacuations, and then it would be too late. Because there are no antibiotics, no intravenous fluids, no hospitals as you know them. You would not survive the water. You dress, but you do not change clothes. Not really. You have perhaps 2 sets of clothes, at most, and you have been wearing these same garments for days, weeks. There is no washing machine, no easy way to clean clothes. Laundry is an enormous task, requiring hours of boiling water, scrubbing by hand, and drying space you do not have. So you wear your clothes until they nearly stand up by themselves, until the smell becomes overwhelming even by Victorian standards. Your skin itches, always itches, because you share your clothes, your bed, your room, with insects, lice, bedbugs, fleas. They bite you through the night, every night, leaving welts and sores that you scratch raw, and these scratches become infected, easily infected, because your hands are never truly clean, and infection, without antibiotics, can spread. can poison your blood, can kill you, slowly, painfully. You would not survive the parasites. Breakfast, if you can afford breakfast, is simple. Perhaps bread, stale bread, hard enough to hurt your teeth, dipped in tea, weak tea, made from leaves that have been used twice already, or perhaps porridge, thin porridge, mostly water, with a hint of oats, if you are lucky, a scraping of drippings, animal fat, saved from the last time there was meat, which was when? Last week? Last month? The bread. You must examine it carefully, even in the dim light, because it may contain adulterants. Yes, Victorian bread was often stretched with chalk, plaster, even worse things, sawdust. There were no food safety laws, no regulations. Bakers added whatever would make more profit, and you would eat it because you had no choice. Your stomach, your modern stomach, so accustomed to processed, safe, regulated food, would rebel within hours. Cramps, nausea, perhaps violent illness, from bread, from simple bread. You would not survive breakfast. Into the streets, into the chaos. You step outside, into the morning, and the assault on your senses begins immediately, begins with such force that you stagger, you actually stagger from the impact. The smell, oh, the smell. There are no words, no adequate words, to describe the smell of Victorian London streets. Imagine, if you can, the smell of rotting garbage, piled high, mixed with human waste, animal waste, dead animals rotting in gutters, the sharp tang of industrial chemicals, the thick, cloying smoke of 10,000 coal fires, the sour smell of unwashed humans, thousands upon thousands of them, all pressed together. You would vomit immediately. A modern person would bend over and vomit from the smell alone, and then, weakened, empty, you would have to continue, because there is no going back, no escape. The street beneath your feet is not paved, not well. There are cobblestones, yes, but they are uneven, broken, missing in places, and the gaps, the spaces between stones, are filled with mud, with filth, with things you do not want to identify. Horse manure mostly, because horses are everywhere. Thousands of horses, pulling cabs, pulling omnibuses, pulling wagons. And each horse produces, how much? 20 pounds of manure per day? 30? Multiply that by thousands of horses, and you begin to understand. The street is carpeted, literally carpeted, with manure, and it never quite goes away. It is ground down, mixed with mud, with rain, until the street becomes a thick, sucking paste that pulls at your boots, that splatters your clothes, that carries disease, always disease. You would not survive the streets. Walk carefully now, so carefully, because the street is also the sewer. Yes, the sewer. Gutters run down each side, open gutters, carrying all the waste, all the refuse of the houses above. Kitchen slops, human waste, everything, flowing slowly, sometimes not flowing at all, just sitting, stagnating. breeding typhoid, breeding cholera, and you must cross these gutters, step over them, and sometimes, in heavy rain, they overflow, flood across the entire street, and you wade through sewage, in boots that leak, while trying not to think about the cuts on your feet, the blisters, how easily infection enters, the fog, the eternal fog, makes it worse, makes everything worse. You cannot see more than a few feet ahead. Shapes loom out of the murk. People, carts, horses suddenly appearing, and you must dodge, must move quickly, because to be hit by a cart, by a horse, in these streets, could mean death. A broken leg in Victorian London is a death sentence. Gangrene almost always follows, and amputation, without anesthetic, or with only whiskey to dull the pain, is a horror beyond imagining. You would not survive an accident. The noise, hear the noise now. It builds slowly, as the city wakes. The clip-clop of thousands of hooves on stone, the grinding of iron wheels on cobbles, the shouts of costermongers, street sellers, hawking their wares. Fresh fish, fresh fish. But the fish is not fresh, not at all. It has been dead for days, in summer heat, covered in flies. Milk, fresh milk. But the milk is watered down, diluted to stretch profits. And the water used is the same contaminated water from the same contaminated pumps. Cholera milk, they call it, because whole families die after drinking milk. You would not survive the food sellers. Children. Notice the children. Everywhere. Small children. 5 years old. 6 years old. Working. Selling matches. Selling flowers. Sweeping the streets. Tiny brooms in tiny hands. For pennies. For half-pennies. Their faces old already. Prematurely aged by hunger and hardship. Their feet bare. Even in winter. Because shoes cost money their families do not have. Some of these children, many of these children, will not survive the winter. They will freeze, or starve, or fall ill. And there is no safety net, no welfare, no system to catch them when they fall. You walk past them, must walk past them, because there are too many, far too many to help. And you hear their coughs, those same rattling coughs. Consumption is in the air, in every breath. A woman brushes past you, and you smell her. A complex smell of unwashed clothes, of poverty, of desperation. She is a match girl, perhaps, or a flower seller. And her hands, you glimpsed her hands. They are yellow, yellow and swollen, from the phosphorus in the matches she makes. Phossy jaw, they call it, a condition where the phosphorus eats away the jawbone, leaving gaping holes in the face, a living decay. You would not survive the work, not any of the work available in Victorian London, the morning labor, the endless grinding. You arrive, finally, at your place of work. And what is that place? Let us imagine, slowly, carefully, that you work in a factory, one of the great engines of the Industrial Revolution, one of the places that makes Britain powerful, makes it wealthy, while grinding its workers into dust. The factory, from the outside, is enormous, a vast brick building with hundreds of windows, most of them broken, or so covered in soot they let in no light. Smoke pours from tall chimneys, Black smoke, thick as oil, falling back down as ash, as soot, coating everything, everyone. Inside, the noise. The noise is beyond comprehension. The clash and thunder of machinery, of steam engines, of power looms, if this is a textile mill, or stamping presses, if this is metalwork. The noise is so loud, so constantly loud, that workers go deaf, gradually, inexorably. Their hearing simply destroyed by years of this assault. You could not survive this noise, not even for a day. You would develop a headache, a splitting, nauseating headache, within the first hour, and it would only grow worse. Worse until you could barely think, barely function. The air inside is worse than outside. If that seems possible. It is hot, intensely hot from the machines, the steam, and this heat is mixed with dust. Cotton dust if it is a textile mill, metal filings if it is metalwork, dust so thick it hangs in the air like a fog. And you breathe it, must breathe it, with every breath. And this dust settles in your lungs, coating them, hardening them. Brown lung, they call it. And it kills you, slowly, gasping, drowning on dry land. You would not survive the factory air, not even one shift. The work itself is mind-numbing. Standing in one place for 14 hours, for 16 hours, performing the same motion, again and again and again, your hands moving automatically. Because to think about it, to truly consider what you are doing, would drive you mad. And the danger, always the danger. The machines have no safety guards, no emergency stops, nothing. They are designed for efficiency, for production, not for human life. And they take human life, regularly, constantly. An arm caught in a loom, crushed to pulp in seconds, a hand pulled into gears, fingers simply gone. A child. Yes, children work here too, children as young as 5. A child pulled under a belt, dead instantly. And when these accidents happen, the machine is stopped for a few minutes, long enough to pull out the body, the pieces, and then it starts again. Because production cannot stop, must not stop, and the blood is washed away, eventually, and another worker takes the place, because there are always more workers, always more desperate people who need the pennies this work provides. You would not survive the machinery. No modern person, with no experience, no training, no understanding of these dangers, would last a day. Your hands, look at your hands. They bleed. By the end of the first hour, they simply bleed. From cuts, from rough materials, from the constant friction. And there are no gloves, no protection. You simply work, through the pain, through the blood. Because to stop, to complain, means dismissal, means no wages, means starvation. The supervisor, the foreman, walks among the workers with a cane, a stick, and he uses it freely, to strike workers who slow down, who seem inattentive. Children especially are beaten to keep them awake, to keep them working, because they are so tired, so desperately tired, that they fall asleep standing up, and might fall into the machines. There is no union to protect you, no labor laws, no minimum wage, no maximum hours. You work until the work is done, or until you collapse. Whichever comes first, and the pay, at the end of this week, if you survive the week, will be a few shillings, enough for rent, perhaps, and bread, but not enough for both, never enough for both. And so you must choose, which is more important today, a roof or food. And this choice, this impossible choice, is what Victorian workers face every single week. You would not survive on these wages. Midday, a brief respite. The factory whistle blows, a shrill, piercing sound that cuts through even the machinery noise, and work stops for half an hour, for lunch, and you stagger outside, your legs cramped from standing, your back aching, your hands throbbing, and you gulp the outside air, which seems fresh, seems almost clean, compared to what you have been breathing. Lunch. What is lunch? If you were wise, if you had money this morning, you brought something with you. Bread, perhaps. A piece of cheese. Hard cheese that has been sitting in your pocket, in the heat. But it is food. It is something. Or perhaps you buy from the street sellers who cluster near the factory gates. Pies. Meat pies. And you bite into one, and the filling is… what? Meat, supposedly. But what kind of meat? Horse, cat, dog? Things that died of disease? You do not ask, cannot ask, because you are too hungry, and it costs only a penny, only one precious penny. The taste is wrong, somehow wrong. But you eat anyway, because you must have food, must have energy for the afternoon shift, and your modern stomach, your modern sensibility, rebels. You can feel the wrongness of it, the contamination, the lack of refrigeration, the flies that have been walking on it. But what choice do you have? What choice? You would not survive Victorian street food. The food poisoning alone would lay you flat. And to be ill, to miss work, means losing your position, losing everything. You sit, for a moment, on a curb, and you watch the London midday traffic, the chaos of it. Horses and carts moving in all directions, no traffic lights, no rules, just a roiling mass of movement, and accidents happen constantly. A horse rears, a cart overturns, spilling its load, and people descend on it like gulls, taking what they can. Because anything at all, has value when you have nothing. A beggar approaches you, a man, or what is left of a man, one leg gone, one arm twisted and useless, his face marked by smallpox, the pitting and scarring that marks survivors of that disease. And he holds out a hand, asking for a penny, just one penny. And you have no penny to give. You barely have enough for yourself. And he moves on, to the next person, and the next. An endless trudge through rejection. There are thousands like him, tens of thousands, people broken by war, by disease, by industrial accidents, with no pension, no disability payments, no help at all except what they can beg. And most people simply stop seeing them, stop registering their presence, because there are too many to process, too many to help. You would not survive becoming one of them. And yet it could happen so easily, one accident, one illness, and you would be there, on that curb, holding out that hand, the sun, when you can see it through the smoke, through the fog, is high now. And it is hot. Summer in London. And that brings its own horrors. The smell intensifies, the sewage in the gutters, the manure in the streets begins to truly ripen in the heat. And flies appear in clouds, in swarms, covering everything, the food, the refuse, the people, flies that carry disease on their feet, on their bodies, spreading typhoid, spreading cholera. Summer in Victorian London is when the great epidemics come, when thousands die, when whole neighborhoods are decimated, and no one knows why. Not yet. Not until later will they understand about germs, about bacteria, about how disease spreads. For now, they believe in miasma, in bad air, in God's punishment, and they pray. They pray constantly. But prayer does not stop cholera. You would not survive a Victorian epidemic. No modern person would. Without vaccines, without antibiotics, without even basic understanding of hygiene. You would be helpless, absolutely helpless. The whistle blows again. The half hour is over, already over, and you must return, must go back inside, back to the machines, back to the noise and the heat and the dust, and you force yourself to stand, to walk, to continue. Because this is not even half done. The day stretches ahead, hours more, so many more hours. The afternoon, the grinding continues, inside again, and the afternoon is worse. Somehow worse than the morning, because you are already tired, already aching, and there are still hours to go, so many hours. The heat intensifies as the sun moves, as the steam engines run and run. The factory becomes an oven, a furnace, and sweat pours from you, soaking your clothes, stinging your eyes, and there is no water to drink. Or rather, there is water, in a bucket, a single bucket shared by 200 workers, and you see them, one after another, dipping a cup into it, drinking, and you think of all the diseases, all the illnesses that could be shared this way. But you are so thirsty, so desperately thirsty, you would not survive the shared water. Tuberculosis spreads this way, and so many other diseases, diseases you no longer even have names for. The afternoon drags, minutes become hours, become eternities, and you understand now, truly understand, why Victorian workers looked so old, so worn down. Because this is not just one day. This is every day. 6 days a week, sometimes 7, 52 weeks a year. No vacations, no holidays except Christmas, perhaps, and Sunday, perhaps. This grinding, endless labor that crushes you, slowly, inexorably, until you are used up, worn out, and then you are discarded. Around you, other workers perform their tasks, and you see them, truly see them, and they are damaged, all of them. One has a persistent cough, blood sometimes on her lips. Another limps from an old injury that never healed properly. A third has burns up both arms from hot metal, scars layered on scars. This is what survival looks like in Victorian London. This collection of wounds, of illnesses, of slow deterioration. And they are the lucky ones, because they are still working, still earning, still alive. You would not survive becoming like them. The slow accumulation of damage, the grinding down of your body, your health, your spirit, it would break you long before it killed you. An accident, mid-afternoon, a scream, quickly cut off, and everyone knows what that means. Someone has been hurt, badly hurt, and you see them carry her out. A girl, perhaps 15 years old, her hand crushed in a machine. The blood, so much blood, leaving a trail across the factory floor, and the machine is stopped, cleaned, restarted, within minutes. Minutes. What happens to her? What happens to a factory girl with a crushed hand in Victorian London? She cannot work, not anymore, not in a factory, and without work, without income. What then? The workhouse, perhaps. That place of last resort, where the destitute go to die slowly. Or the streets, begging, or worse. There are always worse options for a desperate woman in Victorian London. You watch her carried out, and you absolutely know, that this could be you, at any moment, any second of inattention, any piece of bad luck, and your life would be over, effectively over. You would not survive the constant fear, the knowledge that disaster is always one moment away. The foreman shouts, the work must continue, must not slow down, and so you return your attention to your task, to the endless, numbing repetition, and you try not to think, try not to feel, because to think, to feel, is to understand how hopeless this is, how trapped you are. Hours pass. How many? You have lost count. Time becomes meaningless. There is only the work, the motion of your hands, the ache in your back, the burning in your lungs, the noise, the heat, the dust. And then, finally, as the light outside begins to fade, as darkness starts to fall, the whistle blows, the final whistle of the day, and the machines wind down, slowly, gradually, until at last, silence, blessed silence, falls. You have survived one day, one shift, but at what cost? Evening. The journey home. You leave the factory, joining the flood of workers, all moving in the same direction, all exhausted, all damaged, flowing through the streets like a river of broken humanity. And the evening air, which seemed fresh this morning, now seems thick again, heavy with coal smoke, because this is when fires are lit. In every home, in every lodging house, 10,000 fires, 100,000 fires, all adding their smoke to the air. The darkness falls quickly, faster than you expect, and there is no street light, or rather, there are gas lamps, some of them placed far apart, casting small pools of weak yellow light, and between them, between these pools, darkness, deep darkness, where anything might be hiding. This is when London becomes truly dangerous, when the criminals emerge, the footpads, the garroters, the thieves who have been waiting all day for the workers to emerge, with their wages, their precious few shillings. And these criminals hunt in packs, work in teams, one to distract, one to strike, one to run with the stolen money. You walk quickly, trying to stay in groups, trying to stay in the light. But it is not always possible. And you hear stories, always stories, of workers attacked, beaten, sometimes killed, for a few shillings, for the price of a week's rent. You would not survive Victorian London after dark. Not as a stranger, not without knowing the safe routes, the dangerous areas, the territories controlled by different gangs. The fog, the eternal fog, is thicker now, thicker in the evening, and it glows yellow in the gaslight, creating halos and shadows, and you cannot see clearly, cannot judge distances, and you walk with your hands out, feeling your way, and the cold dampness of it soaks through your clothes, into your bones, and you shiver. You cannot stop shivering. This fog alone, this poison fog, is killing people, hundreds of people, thousands, every year. Their lungs slowly clogging with soot, with coal tar, with all the pollutants that hang in the air, and they die gasping, drowning on dry land. And the doctors call it bronchitis, call it pneumonia, call it consumption. But really, it is the air itself, the very act of breathing, that kills them. You would not survive London air, not for a week, not for a month, certainly not for years. Past the factories, past the shops, shops that are closing now, their shutters coming down, and into the residential areas, if you can call them that. The rookeries, the slums, the maze of narrow alleys and courts where the poor live, where you live. The buildings lean toward each other, actually lean. The upper floors overhanging the street, blocking out what little sky remains visible, and laundry hangs between them, stretching across the gaps, dripping, always dripping, dirty water from above, and you try to dodge it, try to stay dry, but it is impossible. The gutters here run with sewage, openly. The privies, the toilets, such as they are, simply drain into open sewers, and in some places, these sewers have backed up, overflowed, and raw sewage sits in pools, stagnant, reeking, and you must walk past it, sometimes through it, and you think of cholera, of typhoid, of all the ways this filth can kill you. You would not survive the sanitation, or rather, the complete lack of it. Children play in these streets, despite everything, despite the filth, despite the danger, because they have nowhere else to play. No parks, no playgrounds. Just these streets, these alleys, and they are thin. So thin you can count their ribs, and their eyes are too large in their faces, and they cough. All of them cough. And you absolutely know, that many of them will not reach adulthood, will not live to see 20, will not survive. A woman empties a chamber pot from a window above, and you jump back, barely in time, as the contents splash onto the cobblestones where you were standing. And this is normal. This is how waste is disposed of, simply thrown into the street, sometimes with a shouted warning, sometimes not. You would not survive the casual filth, the acceptance of conditions that would horrify any modern person. Finally, after what seems like hours, you reach your building, your lodging house, and you climb the stairs, the dark, narrow stairs, the wood worn smooth by thousands of feet, and you smell the building, the accumulated smell of too many people, too little ventilation, too much poverty, Cooking smells, human smells, damp, rot, all mixed together. Your room, your small room, your shared room, and you sink onto the bed, onto the straw mattress that crackles under your weight. And you realize you are still wearing your shoes, your boots, caked with the filth of the streets, because there is no point in removing them. The floor is not clean. Nothing is clean. You would not survive the living conditions, the crowding, the lack of privacy, the lack of basic hygiene. It would break something in you, something fundamental. Evening meal, if you can call it that. Food. You need food. Your stomach is cramping with hunger. But what food is there? If you are married, if you have a wife, she may have prepared something, may have kept the fire going just enough to warm something. Bread soaked in tea, perhaps, or soup, thin soup, mostly water, with perhaps a potato, a carrot, some scraps. Or perhaps you go to a street vendor. Even now, even in the dark, they are out there, selling pies, selling eels. Jellied eels are cheap, are filling, and you buy a portion, and you eat standing in the street, under a gaslight. And the texture, the flavor, is wrong, is strange to your modern palate. But it is food. It is something. Or perhaps, if it is Saturday, if you have just been paid, you go to a pub, a public house, and you buy a beer, weak beer, because the water cannot be trusted, but beer. Beer is safer, is cleaner, and you sit in the noise, the warmth, the press of bodies, and you drink slowly, making it last, because this is the only comfort, the only pleasure available to you. The pub is full, overflowing, with workers like yourself, all trying to forget, just for an hour, just for a moment, the grinding horror of their lives. And they drink, and they talk, and sometimes they fight. Sudden explosions of violence over nothing, over imagined slights. Because the stress, the constant stress of survival, has to escape somehow. You would not survive a Victorian pub fight. No rules, no restraint, fists and boots and bottles. And the loser, if badly hurt, is simply dragged outside, left in the street, because the pub must stay open. The drinking must continue. But perhaps, probably, you cannot afford the pub, cannot afford even weak beer, and so you return to your room, to your thin soup, to your bread, and you eat in silence, or near silence, because there is nothing to say, nothing that has not been said 1,000 times before. The hunger. You learn to live with the hunger. It is always there, a constant companion, because you never, ever eat enough, cannot afford to eat enough, and your body, your modern body, accustomed to 3 meals a day, to snacks, to abundance, rebels, your stomach cramps constantly, you feel weak, dizzy, your hands shake. You would not survive on Victorian rations. The malnutrition alone would destroy you within weeks. Around you, your neighbors, your fellow lodgers, are settling in for the evening, and you hear them, through the thin walls, coughing, always coughing, talking, in low voices, children crying, a baby wailing with that thin, hungry cry that speaks of not enough milk, not enough food. The woman next door, you heard yesterday, lost another child, her third, to scarlet fever. Scarlet fever that swept through the building like fire, taking children, mostly children. And there will be no funeral, no ceremony. The child's body will be taken to a pauper's grave, a mass grave, and that will be the end of it. Death is so common, so constant, that it becomes almost normal. People speak of it casually. Mary's youngest died last night, with the same tone they might use to discuss the weather, because to feel the full weight of every death would be to go mad, would be unbearable. You would not survive the constant presence of death, especially not the deaths of children. So many children. It would haunt you, destroy you. Night, the dangerous hours. Darkness has fully fallen now, and you prepare for sleep, though sleep, in Victorian London, is never restful, never safe, never certain. You have no night clothes, not really. You simply remove your outer layers, your coat, your boots, but keep most of your clothing on, for warmth, for modesty if you share the room, for protection against the insects that will feast on you through the night. The bed. Examine the bed closely. It is a straw mattress, on wooden boards, no springs, no softness. And the straw is alive, alive with bedbugs, with fleas, with things that bite and itch and spread disease. You can see them sometimes, in the candlelight. Little dark spots moving, crawling, and there is nothing you can do. No pesticide, no solution. You simply live with them, sleep with them, and accept the bites, the itching, the infections that follow. You would not survive the bedbugs, not psychologically, not emotionally. The constant itching, the knowledge that insects are feeding on you, it would drive you to distraction, to madness. The cold. As night deepens, the cold intensifies, because the fire has gone out, must go out. Coal is too expensive to burn all night, and the building, this old building, has gaps in the walls, in the roof, where wind whistles through, and frost sometimes forms. Inside, on the inside of windows, on the walls, and you burrow under your thin blanket, and you shiver. You cannot stop shivering, and you hear rats in the walls, in the floors, big rats, bold rats, that sometimes venture into the room, that might run across the bed, across your face if you sleep too deeply, and there is no way to keep them out, no way to seal the building. They are simply part of life, part of the environment, and they carry disease, plague. Though the great plagues are past, leptospirosis, rat bite fever, and their fleas carry typhus. You would not survive the rats, not without screaming, not without panic. Outside, the sounds of night, different sounds than day, the cry of the night watchman. 12 o'clock and all's well. Though all is not well, all is never well. The sound of footsteps, running footsteps, and a scream, cut short. What was that? A mugging? A murder? You do not know, cannot know. You simply pull the blanket higher and pray that whatever happens, happens to someone else. The fog presses against the window, yellow fog, glowing in the gaslight from the street, and you hear the fog horn from the Thames, low and mournful, warning ships, though sometimes ships still collide, still sink in the fog. This is London. This is the great city, the capital of an empire, the richest city on earth. And yet, here in this room, in this moment, you are cold, hungry, frightened, covered in insect bites, breathing air that is slowly killing you, drinking water that might give you cholera, surrounded by disease and death. You would not survive, not for long, not really. Everything here, everything, is trying to kill you. The air, the water, the food, the work, the streets, the people, the diseases, the accidents, the poverty, the sheer grinding hopelessness of it all. Sleep comes, eventually, fitfully, broken by coughing, by itching, by cold, by fear. And you dream, troubled dreams, of machines, of fog, of endless streets, of falling, always falling, the deep night, between midnight and dawn. You wake, sometime in the deepest part of night, and for a moment, you do not know where you are, and then you remember, and the weight of it, the knowledge of where you are, when you are, settles over you like a shroud. The darkness is complete, absolute. There are no streetlights bright enough to penetrate your window, no electric glow, no ambient light, just darkness, thick and pressing, and you hear breathing all around you, other people sleeping or trying to sleep, their breaths shallow, labored, punctuated by coughs. That cough, that Victorian cough, you have it now too. You realize a tickle in your throat, a tightness in your chest, and you cough, trying to muffle it, but it builds, becomes a spasm, and you taste blood, just a little, just a hint, and you know what this means. You know, consumption, tuberculosis, has found you. Of course it has. How could it not? In these conditions, in this air, sharing space with infected people, it was only a matter of time. And now you have it too. And there is no cure, no treatment, just a slow wasting away, months, perhaps years, of decline, until finally, you drown in your own lungs, drowning on land. This is how it happens. This is how Victorian Londoners die, slowly, from diseases that are preventable, curable, in your time. But here, now, there is nothing but waiting. You would not survive tuberculosis. No modern person would. Not without antibiotics, without proper nutrition, without rest and care. You would waste away, just like thousands, tens of thousands. Before you, a child cries in another room, a thin, weak cry, and then silence. And you wonder, is that child dying? Has that child just died? And will anyone know? Will anyone care? The death of a poor child in Victorian London is barely worth noting. Happens too often, means too little, and you lie there in the darkness and you think about tomorrow, about having to wake, having to face another day exactly like this one, another day in the factory, another day breathing poison, another day surviving, barely surviving, and the thought is almost unbearable, almost enough to make you want to give up, to stop fighting. But you cannot, because to stop fighting, to stop working, is to die. Immediately. Certainly. There is no safety net, no help, no second chances. You work or you die. It is that simple. The night stretches on, endless, eternal, and you drift in and out of sleep, never deeply asleep, never fully resting, just existing in a gray state between waking and sleep, where dreams and reality blur together. You dream of clean water, running from a tap, endless and clear. You dream of warm rooms, of soft beds, of food, abundant food, of medicine, of doctors who can heal, of hospitals that save lives instead of warehouses for the dying. You dream of your time, your world, and then you wake and realize it was just a dream, and you are still here, still trapped, still dying slowly. Dawn approaching. The cycle begins again. The first light, gray and weak, begins to seep through your window, and the city stirs. You hear it. The first carts in the street, the first footsteps, the first coughs, and you know that you must rise, must face another day, another identical day. But you are weaker now. You can feel it. One day in Victorian London has damaged you, has taken something from you, your strength, your health, your hope. And if you stayed, if you continued, day after day, week after week, you would simply fade, would become one of them, one of the thin, haunted figures that crowd these streets, working until they drop, dying young, dying badly. You would not survive, not truly, not as yourself. Victorian London would change you, break you, remake you into something harder, something more desperate, something less human, because that is what survival requires here. You must become less, must give up comfort, health, hope, dignity, must accept conditions that would be unthinkable in your world. And this is just one day, one single day. Imagine a week, a month, a year, a lifetime of this. And you begin to understand, truly understand, why Victorian London, for all its power, for all its wealth, for all its grand buildings and great achievements, was a city that killed its own people, slowly, steadily, without mercy. The mortality rate. Think about the mortality rate. In working-class London, life expectancy is perhaps 35 years, perhaps less. 1 child in 3 dies before age 5. 1 in 3. Think about that. Think about what it means to live in a place where childhood death is expected, normal, unremarkable. Women die in childbirth, regularly, because there is no antiseptic, no understanding of infection. Doctors move from dissecting corpses to delivering babies without washing their hands, and puerperal fever, childbed fever, kills thousands, thousands of new mothers, leaving orphans, always more orphans. Men die at work, in accidents, from industrial disease, from simple exhaustion, their bodies used up by age 40, by age 35, worn out like tools, and discarded just as casually. The elderly. There are so few elderly, so few people who survive to old age, and those who do often end in the workhouse, that final degradation, where the poor are housed in exchange for hard labor, where families are separated, where conditions are deliberately made harsh to discourage people from seeking help. This is Victorian London. This is the reality beneath the gaslight romance, beneath the fog and the mystery, beneath the image of grandeur. There is suffering, constant suffering, on a scale that is difficult to comprehend. Millions of people living in conditions that slowly kill them, and accepting it, because they have no choice, no alternative, no escape. The final morning light. The room is gray now, gray with early morning light, and you can see your fellow lodgers, see them clearly for the first time, and they look like ghosts, thin ghosts, with hollow eyes and sunken cheeks, and you realize you probably look the same. One day has transformed you, has begun the process of turning you into them. You sit up, slowly. Everything hurts. Your back, your hands, your lungs, your head, everything. And you know you must rise, must dress, must prepare for work, because the factory whistle will blow soon. And if you are late, if you miss a shift, you will be replaced immediately. There are 10 people waiting for your job, hungry people, desperate people, and so you stand, on shaking legs, and you splash your face with the same dirty water from yesterday, and you pull on your boots, and you prepare to go out, into the fog, into the smoke, into the streets, into another day, another grinding day of survival. But you absolutely know, that you will not survive. Not for long. Not really. Because everything here is killing you. Slowly but certainly. The air fills your lungs with poison. The water carries disease. The food lacks nutrition. The work exhausts you. The stress destroys you. The cold weakens you. The insects infect you. The poverty grinds you down. A modern person, transported to Victorian London, would sicken within days, would die within weeks, from cholera, from typhoid, from tuberculosis, from any of a dozen diseases that are easily prevented, easily cured, in your time. But here they are death sentences. And if disease did not kill you, accident would, or violence, or simple exhaustion, or starvation, or any of the 1,000 ways that Victorian London found to destroy its inhabitants. This is why you would not survive. Not a day. Not truly. Because survival here requires more than strength, more than will. It requires adaptation to conditions that no human should have to adapt to. Requires acceptance of suffering that no human should have to accept. Requires a hardness, a desperation, that comes only from having no other choice. Drifting now. Drifting deeper. Let yourself drift now. Drift away from Victorian London. Back through time. Back through the fog. back to your own time, your own place, where water is clean, where air is breathable, where food is safe, where medicine exists, where work is regulated, where children go to school instead of factories, where life expectancy is twice, 3 times what it was then. Appreciate these things, truly appreciate them, because they were won, slowly, painfully, through generations of struggle, through reforms, through regulations, through people who looked at Victorian London, at those conditions, and said, "No, this is not acceptable. This must change." And it did change, slowly. The Public Health Act, the Factory Acts, the Education Acts, the building of sewers, of clean water systems, the understanding of disease, of hygiene, of nutrition. All of these things came later, came after, built on the suffering of those who lived through the worst, who survived or did not survive. Victorian London. But for now, for this moment, drift. Let the images fade, the sounds quiet, the smells dissipate. Drift back to comfort, to safety, to health, to all the things you take for granted, that Victorians could not even imagine. Breathe deeply, clean air. Notice how easy it is, how effortless breathing should be, how it requires no thought, no concern, just automatic, natural, life-giving breath. Feel the softness beneath you, a real bed, a clean bed, without insects, without straw, without cold, without fear, just comfort, simple comfort. That would have seemed like paradise to a Victorian worker. Think about water. Turn on a tap in your mind and watch clean water flow, endless clean water, hot water even, whenever you want it. Something so simple, so basic to you. That would have been unimaginable luxury to them. And food, safe food, abundant food, food that will not make you sick, food that is regulated, inspected, protected, food you can trust, food you can enjoy, without fear, without calculation, without hunger gnawing at you always. Let these thoughts comfort you. Let them ease you into deeper rest, deeper peace, because you are safe, you are warm, you are fed, you are healthy, you have survived, simply by living in a time when survival is not a daily struggle, not a constant battle, not a matter of pure luck. Victorian London is gone. That world is gone. Those horrors are past, recorded in history, remembered in museums, studied in books, but no longer lived, no longer endured by anyone. And you are here, now, in a time of relative safety, relative comfort, relative health. And that is something to be grateful for, something to appreciate as you drift deeper into sleep, into dreams, into rest. The gentle ending, fading into sleep. The fog rolls in one last time, but this fog is different, softer, gentler. This is the fog of sleep, of forgetting, of release, rolling over Victorian London, covering it, hiding it, until it fades like an old photograph, the details blurring, the edges softening, until it is just a memory, just a story, just history. The sounds fade too, the horses, the carts, the coughs, the machinery, the whistles, the cries, all fading, growing quieter, more distant, until they are just whispers, just echoes, just the suggestion of sound, and then silence, gentle silence. The smells dissipate, the smoke, the sewage, the unwashed bodies, the rot, all dissolving, carried away on that soft fog, until all you smell is clean air, fresh air, the air of your own time, your own place, safe air, healing air, and the cold, the penetrating cold of that Victorian room, melts away, replaced by warmth, gentle warmth, comfortable warmth, the warmth of a safe bed, in a safe home, in a safe time, warmth that asks nothing of you, that simply exists, simply comforts. Let go now. Let go of Victorian London. Let go of the struggle, the suffering, the fear. It is not yours. It was never yours. You were just visiting, just observing, just learning. And now you can leave, can return, can rest. The people of Victorian London, the ones who lived it, who endured it, who survived it or did not, they are at rest now, long at rest, their struggles over, their suffering ended, their stories told, and you have honored them by understanding, by witnessing, by remembering. And that is enough. That is all anyone can do. Sleep now. Deep sleep, peaceful sleep, knowing that you are safe, that you are cared for, that you live in a time when a single day, a single ordinary day, is not a battle for survival, but simply a day full of possibility, full of comfort, full of life. The Victorian streets are empty now, in your mind. The factories silent, the fog dispersed. Just empty streets, quiet streets, historical streets, no longer dangerous, no longer threatening, just memories, preserved in time, to be studied, to be learned from, to be remembered, but not to be relived. And you drift, deeper still, past the Victorian era, past all eras, into the timeless place of sleep, where no history reaches, where no suffering exists, where there is only rest, only peace, and only the gentle darkness of deep sleep. Your breathing slows, deepens, becomes regular, becomes peaceful. The breath of someone safe, someone comfortable, someone at rest. No longer the labored breathing of Victorian workers, no longer the tubercular cough, just clean, clear, healthy breath, in and out, in and out. Steady, reliable, life-giving. And your body relaxes, completely relaxes, no longer tense with fear, no longer aching from labor, no longer cold, no longer hungry. Just relaxed, comfortable, at peace, sinking into the softness beneath you, supported, cradled, safe. Let your mind quiet now. Let the thoughts slow. Let the images fade. Victorian London becomes smaller, more distant, like a city seen from a great height, and then from an even greater height, until it is just a point, just a moment, just a memory. And then, even that fades, dissolves into the darkness of sleep. There is nothing to do, nowhere to go, nothing to survive, nothing to endure. Just this moment, this peace, this rest, drifting, floating, falling gently into deep sleep, deep and dreamless sleep, restorative sleep, healing sleep. The story is over. The day in Victorian London has ended. The dangers past, the suffering acknowledged, the lessons learned, and now only sleep remains. Sweet sleep, gentle sleep, the sleep you deserve, the sleep that heals, the sleep that comforts, the sleep that takes you far, so far. From Victorian streets, from Victorian struggles, from Victorian times. Sleep now, sleep deeply, sleep peacefully, knowing that when you wake, if you wake, you will wake in your own time, your own place, your own safe world, where a single day is just a day, not a test of survival, not a brush with death, just a day. Ordinary, precious, safe, and Victorian London remains in the past, where it belongs. A lesson, a warning, a reminder of how far we have come, how much we have gained, how fortunate we are. Those of us who live in times when survival is not the only goal, is not the daily struggle, is not the measure of success. Drift, drift, drift away into the fog, into the darkness, into sleep, deep, peaceful, eternal sleep, where no Victorian dangers reach, where no historical horrors touch, where there is only peace, only rest, only the gentle embrace of sleep. Let go, completely, of everything, every thought, every image, every sound, every sensation. Let it all fade, dissolve, disappear into the beautiful, peaceful, healing darkness of deep, deep sleep. Sleep now. Just sleep. Deep sleep. Peaceful sleep. Forever sleep.